existence, the CPDM has seemingly become a state party. We hear in this newscast how opposition leaders are questioning why party houses have been confiscated by the ruling CPDM political party of Mr. Bian. Also in this newscast, a security guard murdered in cold blood in the nation's capital. These are headlines. Details in a moment. Good evening. We thank you for joining us in this edition of the news on Equinox Television. Let's begin with this rather sad story. In Yaoundé, where a security guard discovered in his own pool of blood at Mvokada neighborhood, that's in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Preliminary findings reveal that the victim was stabbed several times, and Roland Akong tells us that the perpetrators are still on the run. His report.
Gazamba Makoji, a night watchman, is discovered dead in front of his duty post, a business complex in Vogada, Yaoundé.
Nous avons trouvé quelqu'un qui a été poignardé. Il servait de gardien de nuit ici.
Persons yet to be identified assassinated the 51-year-old for reasons still unknown. The incident has raised an alarm bell about insecurity in some Yaoundé neighborhoods. Gazambe Makoji had 7 children and a wife. The grieving family, devastated by the loss, is still struggling to cope with the tragedy. Gendarmes of the area have opened investigation on the matter.
That is an unfortunate incident which took place in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. We thank you so much, Roland Akong, for that report. Now, a municipal treasurer of the Alu subdivision, where in the southwest region of the country, has been audited for financial controllers from the nation's capital. Mr. Fortabon Christopher, as he is called, to arrived on board. An ambulance has reportedly been unwell for several days now. Derek Jato has the details.
This ambulance is not entering the gates of a hospital, but the Buya Treasury.
The accident, I witnessed it today here in Treasury. I've never witnessed it before. I see the ambulance running into the Treasury, alarming without any notification. Even the military people there, they was really doubting what happened there.
The ambulance is from Komba in Meme Division, and on board a nurse seated by Mr. Elasin Fortabon Christopher, the municipal treasurer of Alo. Alo is a subdivision of the BLM division. From his sick stretcher, the municipal treasurer told us that he was invited by the Southwest Paymaster General, that controllers have come from Yaoundé to audit him.
He should be the Paymaster General in this office. He's one who called me with control from Yaoundé. Where they are the state, we are sheep without a shepherd.
Minutes later, the auditors instead came, and after standing for a while, they left. To the Paymaster General, the internal treasury affairs is never for the public, reason why he did not respond to any question. From the query, dated February 26, 2015, from the office of Mr. Temgwa Paul Sixtus, Mayor of Alo Council, the municipal treasurer will have to account for 12,798,750 francs, and to the municipal treasurer, his functions and that of the Alo Mayor have gone beyond saving the public to a total political duel.
And the mayor told me that he was going to remove me from my job.
This ambulance leaving the treasury, Mr. Fortabon Christopher said he is going now to the hospital to serve his life before saving the nation.
And in the Mongo division of the country, taps have basically run dry in Kongsamban. Locals have resorted to water from doubtful sources. Children, women and men have to cover long distances just to be able to get the precious liquid. Jack Ekwekinge tells us in the following report that the situation has been going on for several months now. His report.
Potable water in the town of Kongsamba has become a nightmare to the population of this old-age town. The inhabitants see the precious liquid has become very rare, up to the fact that extra cost now needs to be put aside to get water.
Ceux qui n'ont pas d'eau à domicile achètent l'eau. On achète pour faire tout ça, des ménages, préparer, boire.
For several months now, taps have remained dry, both in private residences as well as public taps. This situation has forced the population to go in for water from doubtful sources, especially when one is unable financially to acquire potable water.
On n'est même pas sûr si l'eau là est bien potable.
The water distributing company has advanced as reasons for the shortage the increase in the population, with the present reservoir unable to supply the demands of the increasing population. For now, the inhabitants of the town of Kongsamba have just one wish: to have a public taps. But while waiting for their wish to be realized, the Archdiocese of Kongsamba has decided to quench the thirst of its population by creating a portable water source, while hoping for the situation to be brought under control in the nearest future by the powers that be.
Now we talk politics, where joint section rallies have been holding on across the country since the early hours of this morning as the CPDM militants celebrate the party's 30 years of existence. A moment for the party hierarchy to give a balance sheet of its major achievements, which to President Paul Biya has been positive. This while in his address on the sidelines of today's event, Mr. Biya said that 30 years is an age of maturity and an age at which everything seems possible. Now, in news out of Cameroon, or before we talk about news out of Cameroon, party houses which are national emblems, we are still talking about the 30th anniversary of the ruling CPDM party, have for years now been transformed into CPDM private property. As we announced in the headlines, the houses were before 1990 meant for general use, but opposition parties surprisingly do not have access into them. They want the ruling party to vacate the structure without any condition. A reporter for Hansen Chanji has the details.
The relaunch of multipartyism in 1990, the Cameroon National Union was the lone political party existing in the country. Party buildings constructed with help from taxpayers, Cameroonians who were compelled to contribute to the realization of structures in different divisions so as to host meetings. After the launch of multipartyism, with the emergence of the Social Democratic Front and subsequent comeback of the UPC party among others, the CPDM party, former CNU, baptized in 1985, have continued to claim ownership over party houses. The said houses have been hijacked by the party of the burning flames, dictating its laws. They now rent the halls to other political parties and social groups with their letterheads. The money realized probably ends up in individual pockets.
À des taux incompréhensibles. Ils mettent l'argent dans le...
This illegal occupation of public buildings, as described by Bruno Defoe, is an insult to Cameroonians who, regardless of political affiliation, contributed enormously to its realization. Bruno Defoe's Democratic Movement for National Conscience had on November 19, 2014, written a strongly worded open letter to the CPDM party addressed to Chairman Paul Biya, demanding the party to liberate public structures and hand them to the public. This March 19, 2015, Modekna wrote another letter suggesting that the houses be renamed from Maison du Parti to Maison du Peuple. The party suggests that such a name could make the building open to the general public without being controlled by a specific party.
Ces maisons doivent être utilisées comme les maisons de culture, par exemple.
Social gatherings, cultural shows like cinema halls could be major activities carried out in this party, Bruno Defoe tells us. The CPDM party has not only hijacked some public buildings in Cameroon, others have been abandoned. The party house in Edea is a shadow of itself. The gigantic structure that stands proudly on the sky of the City of Light is suffering from acts of vandalism. Windows have been broken, doors stolen, toilets out of use. The CPDM is celebrating 30 years today, but the houses which opposition politicians say have been illegally occupied are in bad state. Someone is watching.
Now, a brief news out of Cameroon. French aviation authorities and police have said that the Airbus A320 airlines belonging to the German airline, that is the German Wings, has crashed between Barcelona and Digne. The plane left Barcelona with 144 passengers on board and 6 crew. French president has said that no one is expected to have survived. Still out of Cameroon, the reopening of the Tunisia's Bardo Museum following the March 18 attack that killed over 20 people has been delayed onto Sunday this weekend. It was due to the reopening, or it was due to reopen today, Tuesday, but there would only be a symbolic ceremony according to officials in Tunisia. Security concerns appear to have halted the reopening that was supposed to take place today, and the reopening less than 1 week after the attack is intended to show that the gunmen failed to achieve their goal. They're bringing us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. Tonight we talk about the CPDM party, which is 30 today. The CPDM party was the laboratory of democracy in Cameroon and is satisfied with what has so far been accomplished. It is a statement from the message of the party's chair himself, President Paul Biya, as the party clocks 30 today. Tonight we are going to be looking at how and why the CPDM has so far remained undefeated for 3 decades now, and also the place of the opposition political party in the regime of Mr. Biya. Good evening to you, Barrister Philip Ndikomu. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
And just to know that you are not just a legal man, you are equally a political analyst. With you, we are going to be looking at the CPDM party 30 years after. But first, we are going to be talking about the 6-year jail sentence that was slammed on the son of the former president of Senegal, Karim Wade, just to get your reaction as far as the decision of the judges were concerned.
Yes, thank you very much. I think as a lawyer, what we first try to do is look at what happened, or if a crime was committed. As you know, Wade was accused of stealing $1.4 billion, and then when he went to court, that was quashed, and he was later on accused of corruption. He fought the case. He's been given 6 years and fined 33 billion francs. But if you look at it comparatively, that is a very, very lenient sentence. In the United States, you will have many life sentences. And in Cameroon, we've seen people have 25 years with less than that. So I think it is slim. And the interesting thing about that judgment is that his civic rights have been maintained, which means that I think he can still run for president, though I don't have the details yet. But I think I read through Cameroon Tribune, BBC, that his civic rights have not been put into question, which makes him a political leader, and hopefully he may run for the next presidential election. Okay, possibility to run for the next presidential elections. Now, just to know that he was selected, that was few days to the sentence, as the chosen as candidate for the principal opposition party in Senegal, that is the PDS, a political party. Can we not say, as observers are thinking, that the judgment was somehow politically motivated? I don't think so. I think we should grow up in Africa. Locally, we have people who think that they are above the law. Nobody is, and this should be very clear. Even the President of the Republic is not above the law, as far as I'm concerned. So people who are children of presidents, as they call themselves, must understand that they are a burden for us in Africa and a shame to the whole of this continent. They should grow up. How can a man steal $1.4 billion and wants to get out scot-free because he's the president's son? I don't think so. I think we should grow up. He was so powerful, he abused power, he acted with impunity, and I think this is a call showing that in Africa we cannot continue to move forward in that direction. So I do not think it's politically motivated. What I think is that the leniency of that judgment is instead is because his father is what he is, and I think that should stop in Africa.
So to you, the judgment is rather lenient?
Very lenient indeed.
Okay, very well then, Barrister. Just to indicate that our exact topic of discussion tonight was supposed to be the CPDM party, which turns 30 today. Just to get your reaction as a political analyst, where, according to you, does the party of Mr. Biya stand in terms of achievements 30 years after?
Well, I have been lucky enough to see the transition from the one-party system to his one-party system, and then to multi-party system, which was provoked by the SDF. It's grown matured. It's politically, I think, it's not given a chance, because as far as I'm concerned, those are my private views. In 1992, the SDF won the elections, so it was hijacked by the present political party, and that cannot be framed as a success story. Well, putting things behind us, I think they have done their best because they have stayed as long as they can in power, but they should start thinking a way to move forward. They should start preparing. The problem in Africa, personally, I'm very sorry, it's a personal view, is that we don't have any establishments, especially in this country, to train politicians, to train lawyers, to train good doctors. We used to have queues, but we know what is happening today. So we need institutions that train our political leaders so that they come out and can discern whether they are SDF or the political party in power. If we are looking at it in that light, we have failed, because as we speak, we don't even know who is going to, if something happens, who is going to replace the president, unless they are preparing it in a dark room. But I think we should know, because we pay taxes and we have a right to know. In that light, that way of doing business in darkness has shown that the political party in power has failed. Until I see the next leader who can move this forward, this country into the next century, then I will start thinking of their success. Otherwise, as it stands, I do not see any political achievement as far as I'm concerned.
No political achievement, but the CPDM party has stood the test of time for 30 years now. What explains this unperturbed governance of Mr. Biya?
I don't think it's unperturbed. You have the young people coming out without jobs.
But they have never won the elections.
Well, you have the schools chunking out half-baked academicians, which are good for nothing around the world. They cannot compete internationally. You have the roads are not built. You have Ben Skinners who have taken the country hostage.
Unperturbed in terms of governance.
I know, but that is part of it. So I do not think they have anything to write home about. So I'm very sorry, they will have to sit up. It is true that there is, I was in Yaoundé yesterday and I had a meeting in the ministry. The young people who are going to take over, they have the zeal, they have the energy, they have the foresightedness, and I think we should, congratulate them for that.
But do they have their place in the government?
That is where I was. Thank you very much for anticipating. They must, this country, this political party must give a chance. I would like to see a number 2 that Mr. Biya appoints to start taking decisions and start working as he was put in 1985 to replace the last president, or the last but one president. That he should also do that. Copy from his political textbook to understand that he must give the young people, one of us, a chance, or many of us, so that we can have a college where we choose the next leader. Otherwise, people are so scared because they don't know the future. They are scared because
this uncertain
they don't have,
future,
yes.
Is that a huge weakness on the part of the opposition in Cameroon? Because if you say the future is uncertain with the dozens of political parties that we have in Cameroon as opposition, is it a weakness on their part?
They are not better. They are just, the French will say, bonnet blanc, blanc bonnet. You have SDF has also been in power for so many years. They have not done better either. You have one man at the helm. He's not preparing somebody to take over, and which is just sad indeed. So I think it's just what is happening in Africa. Some countries like Senegal have done better. South Africa is doing better, but Cameroon, Nigeria is also doing better, but Cameroon has just been a political stalemate in this country. But we think we've had peace in spite of all of that. So we are looking for a sort of political arrangement that can make the future happen, so that people do not anticipate violence, do not anticipate a sort of civil war situation, which I think many people are harboring these days.
You're talking of political stalemate, but the President of the Republic is boasting of how democracy has been fully achieved. He said that his party has succeeded to put democracy on track. What do you think about that? What do you have to say about that?
That is his perspective. I will not say so. It's relative. I have said we have had stability, but under what condition? Where the Benskinners control the country. Even the opposition party is not regularized, it's not protected.
When we talk of democracy, what tool or what do we use to measure the level of democracy?
Power for the people, of the
people. Is it free elections, free and fair elections that you just
Power of the people, by the people, of the people, for the people. I don't think that is the case. Go to the hospitals, you find out there's no democracy. Go to the schools, you find out there's no democracy. I think we have mediocrity all over the place. We are not competitive internationally. Until we can build the schools that can compete internationally and build the hospitals that can take care of us to international standards. And I think, if I think about it carefully, we need a system that provides social security for every Cameroonian, whether you are working or not. That is the type of democracy I want to see. A political system by the people, for the people, and of the people. If we do not do that, I think that we have therefore failed the test. And if you permit my language, we have failed big time.
And the last hope bestowed on youths today that are not even given opportunity in the government, as we can see, the ages of authorities that are governing the country today, above 70, a majority of them, we can see the National Assembly, the upper house and lower house of parliament, the Senate, and also the parliament. Equally, the head of state himself. Is that not a problem?
I don't think so. I think if we look at it very carefully.
In terms of age?
I don't think so. When I studied in the United States, I used to joke with my classmates that I'll run for government, I'll run for political, I don't know what. And they were very supportive, my classmates in the United States. But in Cameroon, I think they sort of inertia. I once made a comment in, when I was interviewed in, it's not the other Catholic radio in Douala, and I told them, the president has this monopoly because the parents are absent from homes. I think what parents should do more is that they should eat at table with their children morning, afternoon, evening, and invite their children to listen and teach them that every Cameroonian is entitled to become president. And then tell them that they should make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. If we do that and 1 million of us aspire to be president of the Republic, our dear president will not be there for 30 years. That is the type of Cameroon I want to see in the future.
But those who even have the initiative, they end up, they even go to school, carry out, do professional studies, but at the end of the day, they are not employed. Is that not some of the reasons why Cameroonian youths, they hardly do want to take initiatives for themselves, because they feel that whatever they do, it's not going to take them anywhere?
I don't think so. I think, sorry that I will talk a bit about myself, because just talking in the vacuum sort of put people having having some expectations which cannot be fulfilled. I think it's a very simple way to put it. As far I remember, when I was a young child, my father sent me to CPC Bali. Just spending 5 years in that great institution changed my life. I do not expect from the government. I plan my life according to what the future is. I try to teach that to my children. And so I think parentalhood, I think having responsible parents who teach you the way forward. Today we have coaching, we have interpersonal skills which are taught. It's not something you take for granted. Parents have to, it's true that there's poverty, but my parents were not that rich. They were responsible enough to teach me that when I want to get something, I should go make it happen. So
Cameroonians should take their responsibilities into their hands, their destinies into their hands.
There's a lot of things you have to...
Because the government seems to be failing. That's what the barrister is saying.
Well, I say there's a state of inertia. We have a lot of, let me put it this way, we should be optimistic. This country flows with honey, milk and honey. So I think that if we work very hard in this country, we can make it better. I'm saying that we should teach our children to become president, so that Biya should not only have Frundi against him, but he should have 1 million of us against him, and I think it's going to change the political platform. So I am challenging the parents of this country to sit up and take their responsibilities and train their children in such a way that they will find a way. When I was trained in CPC Bali, I was not trained to become a lawyer. But because my parents made that extra sacrifice, I knew how to become president. And so now, if we teach our children, and tell them that you are meant to be presidential material and you can become president, and we send them to the best schools, they are going to find a way. So we should not lose that side. What we tell our children, if we tell them morning, afternoon, evening, they are going to say, my father told me I'll be president, nobody can tell me I cannot be. And if we have 1 million of us to do that, they're going to do that. But we have to also teach them humility. We have to teach them godliness, because what is happening in Cameroon is that winner take all. When somebody becomes Minister of Finance, he wants to steal everything. So we have to teach them to fear God, so that when they get in that position, they should be able to save humanity and not save themselves.
Thank you, Barrister. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure,
wonderful pleasure having you with us in this edition of the news.
So
we hope to have you some other time again.
Thank you.
To our viewers, it was equally a wonderful pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Until we meet again, goodbye.